Right. So speaking of the study of Torah, which is really the one of the great points of emphasis of the Benoni, so um, we have to understand that the study of Torah really is unique in the Jewish religion because most religions you study something in order to be able to know what to do. But in Judaism, when you study Torah, there is value in just the study itself. Yes, you have to study to know what to do, but just the study itself is already a divine act because that is when your mind is connecting with God's mind. The Beinoni is very much aware of that, and therefore he doesn't allow time just uh, to go to waste, but rather uses that time to connect himself to God. And if you have no action right now at hand, then you don't just say, okay, I'll just watch a Netflix or whatever it is, but I'll study Torah. Because the studying itself, in and of itself, has tremendous divine value. You're connecting again your mind, your whole, your thoughts, your whole intellectual sphere and spiritual sphere at the same time too, with God Himself. It's your mind connecting with God's mind. That's what the study of Torah is. And that in and of itself, by the way, carries also many so-called benefits or so-called spiritual protections. In fact, it's very much connected because tonight and tomorrow and the day after is Shavuot. Shavuot is also the yahrzeit of King David. And um, that's part of the reason we read the book of Ruth too on Shavuot, because Ruth was the great grandmother of King David. And it's to also celebrate King David and his life. But it's interesting because the Midrash speaks about how King David wanted to know exactly when he will die. Not sure if you're familiar with that Midrash. And God said, sorry, that's something that only I know. It can't be revealed to humankind. So King David persisted and he said, okay, if you can't tell me when I'll die, at least can you tell me the day I'll die? And God said, okay, I will tell you that you will die on a Shabbat. I won't tell you when, but you'll die on a Shabbat. So from that point on, King David, every Shabbat, whenever he didn't engage in the mitzvahs of Shabbat, he would study Torah. He wouldn't take a Shabbat nap, I guess. He would study Torah. And why? Because he knew that the study of the Torah protects him from the angel of death. And indeed, when that day came, when that Shabbat came, in which the angel of death came to take his soul, when it was time for him to leave this world, the age of 70, the angel of death found him studying Torah, as the Midrash recounts, and he wasn't able to kill him because Torah protects you. So he didn't know what to do. And he's there standing over King David, but he can't take his soul because he's studying Torah and Torah protects him. Eventually, the angel of death thought of a creative idea and he went to a tree nearby and he shook it. When he shook the tree, King David was distracted a little bit because he looked at the tree, at the noise. Where's this coming from? And that second, when he stopped studying Torah, that's when the angel of death was able to take his soul, and that's when he died on the day of Shavuot. That's when the story happened, at least according to the Midrash. But yeah, we see that the study of the Torah indeed is a divine act, and that divine act adds a layer of divine protection. In fact, I just read yesterday, it's just astounding to me, but 1981, Israel attacked the nuclear plant in Iraq that they thought could be tremendously dangerous, not just for Israel, but for the world. After all, Iraq was ruled by Saddam Hussein, a crazy dictator, and they decided to attack it and to eliminate it. And no one knew about it except for two people outside of the government, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, blessed memory, and the Baba Sali. The Baba Sali was the revered Sephardic rabbi of the time. He was truly a holy man too. Why? Because Menachem Begin, the prime minister of Israel at the time, had decided to ask for their blessings. And when he asked the Baba Sali for a blessing, the Baba Sali said, when exactly, at what time exactly are you planning to attack the nuclear plant in Iraq? And Menachem Begin told him at 2 p.m. And the Baba Sali said, can you move it to 4 p.m.? And Menachem Begin said, fine, you see things I don't see. We'll move it to 4 p.m. When they asked the Baba Sali, why did you want to move it to 4 p.m.? He said, because at 2 p.m., that's when all the yeshivas go on a lunch break. No one will be studying Torah then. We want to ensure that the study of the Torah supports the government of Israel and, of course, the Air Force, the heroic Air Force soldiers, so that they'll have the layer of the Torah protection studied at 4 p.m. But it again comes to show the power of the study of the Torah, that when we connect our mind with God's mind, we in many ways become divine, and we also are rewarded with this divine protection. So back to the Benoni. The Benoni is a person who understands not just the value of time, but also the value of infusing time with divinity. And if it's not a mitzvah, then it's Torah. Because Torah itself also creates that divine protection.
Is the divine protection increased when we pray collectively as opposed to individually?
That's a great question. Absolutely. Absolutely. That when we pray, and now we're talking about study, when we study collectively, then no doubt, then this study is not just bringing me, but it's bringing my nation, bring my collective, that divine protection. In fact, that it says that when one individual, and this is from the ethics of our fathers, when one individual studies Torah, then God comes and studies with him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu koreh v'shoneh kenegdo. God stands opposite the person studying Torah and studies with him. And when 10 people study Torah, then the whole Shekhinah comes and studies, is drawn down and studies and dwells among the nation of Israel. Why? Because there's that power of the collective to draw down the Shekhinah, not just to have God as a chavrusa, as a study partner, but really to have the Shekhinah itself dwell in our nation.
Rabbi, you cannot
Yes,
have divine protection if you don't have an army and an air force.
absolutely. It goes both ways. There's no doubt. You couldn't bomb the nuclear program, to go back to that example, without the Air Force. But that protection at 4 p.m. added to their success. So you need both, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Okay. Again, I welcome any other comments, questions, disagreements. Otherwise, we can continue. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue.
Furthermore, one must know an additional important principle in the service of the intermediates. This is that even if the capacity of one's intellect and the spirit of one's understanding do not attain to the level of producing a revealed love of God in one's heart. As chapter 15 mentioned, the Benoni's appropriate service, the perfect service, is based on the ability to experience an emotional arousal through conceptual thought. By consciously directing one's mind to something specific and thereby becoming emotionally connected. The basis for this is that everyone is capable of ruling over his thoughts. Yet even for one who does so, there is no guarantee of an emotional response. The Benoni must traverse a bridge, not at all self-evident, from intellectual comprehension to the realm of feeling. And when this bridge is flawed, mental acuity and an understanding of God's greatness are insufficient alone to give birth to a love revealed in one's heart.
Right. So because the Benoni is still dealing with the animal soul, of course, successfully, as we said, it's in control of it, but the animal soul is still quite alive within the Benoni, then it creates all sorts of dichotomies, all sorts of noises, so to speak. One of them is this idea that the intellectual exercises that the Benoni may engage himself with may not produce an emotion, and therefore it might remain strictly intellectual. If you recall, we spoke about how to arouse the love of God. Because sometimes it just doesn't fall from heaven, right? You don't just wake up in the morning every day spiritually awakened. It might happen from time, but doesn't happen every day. So how do you rouse the love of God? Because at the end of the day, we're commanded to love God, right? It's part of the Shema. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. And the answer that the Tanya gives is that you have to contemplate. You have to meditate. You have to use your mind. Go focus on God's creation, for example, and it will arouse an emotion of love. You'll see, wow, the Creator really created this world, created me, created my life, and then of itself will arouse emotion. But it doesn't always happen. That's what the Tanya is saying here. It doesn't always happen. Because again, of this animal soul that's vibrant, that's alive, and creates sometimes confusion and chaos. But it doesn't mean that one should give up. So if you don't have an emotion, you should still study Torah. So that study of the Torah won't awaken you spiritually. It won't set your soul ablaze. But still, do it. Because again, the studying of itself creates this divine connection and eventually divine protection, like we said. So we can't always expect our emotions to respond. That's how Beinonis are, which is an important point, a simple point, but yet profound one, especially for our day and age, because very often if we don't feel it, then we quit. Oh, I don't feel it right now, so I'm not going to pray. I don't feel it right now, so I'm not going to do this mitzvah. I don't feel it right now, so I'm not going to help someone. It's got nothing to do with your feelings. It's got to do with your action or with your thoughts. Just connect your thought, connect your action. If you have a feeling, good for you. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be feeling oriented. Feeling is also very selfish. And if you're only doing it for your feelings, then you're doing it for yourself, not doing it for God. There's value in doing it just because then you're really doing it for God. Then even if you have no emotions, you're still doing it. Wow, that means you really are in love with God. By the way, I want to connect this to Shavuot, because Shavuot is really God's marriage with the Jewish people and the Jewish people's marriage with God. In fact, they say that the Torah is the ketubah, and the marriage contract. And in fact, there's a beautiful prayer out there that many congregations, not all, but many congregations, especially the Kabbalistic ones, say before the reading of the Ten Commandments tomorrow. By the way, everyone is welcome. Please join us. That's the mitzvah of the day. But how we are about to remarry God, to renew our vows, so to speak, and that this ketuvah is about to be given to us again through the reading of the Ten Commandments. It's just a beautiful prayer. I encourage you to look for it. But what's interesting is that when God gave us the Torah, the Talmud says that God took the mountain of Sinai, on which the Torah was given, and lifted it above our mountain, our heads. Sorry, kafa alehem hal kegigit. That's what it says. That He forced this mountain on top of them, and He said to the Jewish people, "If you accept the Torah, then good. Then I'll let you live. If you don't, I'll drop this mountain on you, and you'll all die." Now, is that the way to get married? Imagine just before your chuppah, your husband says, if you don't marry me right now, I'll kill you. First of all, I already agreed. The Jewish people already agreed. They said, Na'aseh v'nishma. But what are we here? A mafia? What is happening? And really, even and when God expects that when we say yes forcefully, that this yes will last. No yes that He said forcefully lasts, because it's not meant. It's not said with intention. So what was God doing? Threatening the Jewish people, blackmailing us? But what is happening? And the answer, according to some of the commentaries, is just beautiful. God was really teaching us what true love is. True love doesn't mean that you have to force your spouse or the person that you're in a relationship with into something. But true love means that you're committed to the love, to the relationship, even when you have zero feelings towards it. Even if it's just because. God was saying, look, there will be moments in which you'll feel that this relationship between you and I is forced upon you. It's like this mountain that's about to crush you. I want to know if you'll still be committed to that relationship when those feelings won't be there, when the emotions won't be there, when you'll feel like a whole mountain is about to crush you. And the Jewish people then said yes, because we understand that true relationships is not just about our feelings when we are all emotionally involved with it, but even when we don't feel it. That's the way human nature is. Sometimes you don't feel it. Let's see if you're still committed then. And that's why God did that. In many ways, this is what this is saying. So sometimes you study Torah and you don't feel it. So what? I'm going to study again. I'm forcing myself, and it's really grueling and tiresome. But you do it. Why? Because it's not about you. It's about the relationship. It's about God. If you have feelings, good for you. If you don't, doesn't matter. You're still committed. That's really what it's about. Just because, by the way, this is also why, just to add to it, again, connecting into Shavuot, that's why on Shavuot, there's no fluff. You know, on Sukkot, you shake the lulav, you live in a sukkah. On Passover, you eat matzah, you have a seder. On Shavuot, where's the stage? Where's the performance? Where's the fluff? You don't see it. The only mitzvah of Shavuot is to listen to the Ten Commandments. Staying up all night, eating dairy, these are just customs. They're not mitzvahs. If you don't fulfill them, and you came to listen to the Ten Commandments, you still fulfill the unique mitzvah of Shavuot. So why? And the answer is because true relationships, true love, doesn't have fluff. It doesn't have all these feelings, all these emotions that cause you to create this volcano of feeling. No, true love is, I listen to you, you listen to me. I'm committed to you, you committed to me. Ten Commandments, yes, we have this ketubah binding us. And it doesn't matter whether there's a whole stage, whether there's a whole performance, whether there's a whole atmosphere that makes us feel good or not. Doesn't matter. That's really the deeper reason why on Shavuot there's no stages. It's pure. It's real. It's just because. That's what it's about. That's what this is saying, really. Again, I welcome comments, disagreements. Otherwise, we can continue.
You seem to blow away feelings, and I cannot agree with that completely.
Right.
I think feelings are fundamental in any relationship.
Absolutely. No, I'm not negating feelings. Not saying feelings are not important, but I'm saying if the feelings are not there, it doesn't mean you have to back out. Sometimes they won't be there. But let's see you stay committed even when they're not there. Yes, feelings should be worked on. It's it's almost impossible to have a relationship that's robotic. So you have to work on it. But if it's robotic on a Monday morning or on a Thursday evening or, from time to time sporadically, then okay, don't back out on Monday morning. Stay true to it. Stay connected. Stay committed. Right? Absolutely. Look, Kabbalah also speaks about how love and fear of God are the wings that make a person soar. So you need, love is the right wing, fear is the left wing, and that's what makes you soar and really connect to the heavens. So you need those two. But if you don't have them, that means that's it. You're backing out. Well, still committed.